How are we doing, Pirates? This is week 7, the last week. I'm sure you guys are all pretty chill with that. You know, it's a lot of material to do in 7 weeks. Okay. I think week 7 brings us back full circle to week 1, where in week 1 we set up the conversation about market orientation. Okay. And here, I think we have another set of articles that reinforces everything we did in weeks 1 through 6, but at the same time really emphasizing week 1 again. Okay? And I'm sure you guys were happy. There were only 3 articles this week, so we have a nice, tight set of questions. So let's get to it. Now, the first article that I wanted in the order that I wanted them presented is Marketing is Strategy. Now, again, I'm a market orientation kind of guy. I really wish this was the market dictates the strategy is more of a market-oriented phrase as opposed to the marketing department is the one that's deciding strategy. Now, this author and many other authors think that it is the marketing silo that should be in charge of this because the marketing silo is the one that is the most external to the firm. It's way more external than management, way more than finance, way more than accounting, way more than IT, way more than operations, way more than supply chain. Okay, I get that. But at the same time, I'm not a fan of silos, and you guys know that. We'll get to more of that in the questions, because you guys ask some really good questions. Final comment. In this article, they talk about this downstream activity and upstream activity. Okay, no problem. It's a nice framework, the way to decide how an operation should function. We, the whole semester, have been talking about external market orientation or internal orientation. So you could say downstream, upstream, and downstream should drive the conversation, which is external. Does branding qualify as downstream? Well, absolutely, positively, yes. We did a whole module on branding. We talked about branding in the bottom-up world where the crowd decides brand meaning. So in my eyes, well, absolutely, positively, yes. Do you think it's a bad idea to completely disregard upstream activities? Yes, it is a completely bad idea to completely disregard upstream activities. But I think you should let the external orientation of customers and competition drive what happens upstream, as opposed to, hey, I'm a company, this is what we manufacture, sales and marketing, figure out how you're going to sell this, which is kind of what the Galaxy Fold is. You know, that was an upstream effort. And by the time they got to the downstream activities, well, guess what? It wasn't really a viable product for the marketplace. Would you say that Apple's success is due to both downstream competitive advantage and improvements in technology? Well, you can certainly say that Apple does a pretty good job of downstream market sensing. Apple's never the first one to the marketplace, and historically speaking, every time Apple is first to the marketplace, they tend to fail just as often, if not more, than any other company. But what Apple does do well is they see a marketplace that is developing, it's established, it's small, but at least the marketplace is established. And then they jump in. They were not first to the market with MP3 players. M3. They were not first to the market with smartphones. They were not first to the market really with tablets either. They don't need to be first, they just need to be better. How do companies determine and identify what customers are looking for, especially when success is not attained by being responsive to their customer stated preferences? Well, it's that market sensing of the market orientation, okay? It's that, okay, this is what's happening in the marketplace, and if it was playing out this way, this is how we're going to react as a firm. Now, at no point, and I've said this in other modules, are we doing anything verbatim. We are not going to give someone a faster horse. We're going to give them superior transportation. Another good example of this is, it could be the case that someone might want to save money on their energy bill. They may not realize that solar is the answer. But the goal is to save money. And you say, well, saving money, let's just give them a coupon. No, but you read in between the lines, and really what they're looking for is a way to be more environmentally friendly and save money vis-a-vis fossil fuels. You have to read in between the lines. In a perfect world, would offering the lowest price compared to your competition be the best strategy? It depends. It depends on who you are. Would this be a good idea for BMW? No. Would this be a good idea for Mercedes-Benz? No. Now, could you provide really good value compared to your competition? This is Honda. This is Hyundai, where they offer features that we see in BMW and Mercedes, but not for BMW and Mercedes prices. Okay? That's more but is Honda or Hyundai the cheapest option? No. But Bic pens are the cheapest option. And it works for Bic pens. So it depends. It really depends on what the market is, how the market is structured, how well it's established, how cutthroat it is, how much growth there's happening. Is it zero sum or is it growing double digit every quarter? Innovation is not confined to products or technology. True. Is this mindset still applicable in 2009? Yes. As younger generations often go for the latest tech. Yeah. Younger generations aren't necessarily going for the latest tech. Younger generations are going to where their peer group is telling them to go to. It just so happens that the younger generation's peer group tends to be fueled by technology. But it may or may not be technology. Are customer preferences just the same thing as defining what the customer wants in a product? They are similar, yes. You can say customer preferences and customer wants. Okay. For the basis of our class, for what we've been talking about in the last 7 weeks, 8 weeks, yes, we can treat these as equals. Now, if you want to do a major PhD deep dive, we can talk about different mindsets when it comes to preferences versus wants. But we don't need to go there. For the sake of our class and our conversation, they're the same thing. What's the best way to achieve customer expectations when they can be ever-changing to create the best product in your opinion? What's the best way to reach customer expectations when they keep changing to create the best product? All right. This was last week's articles. Find out what your customers want before they do. We have in the last article in this set where we're talking about the recommendation engine. Also, we could say algorithms. Your customer base, i.e. the crowd, and the firm. And then value is co-created, and that way you're kind of always on this cutting edge of what customers are looking for and how they change. Hold on one second. If we have that learning relationship, if we have the CRM, if we know what our customers want before they do, then you can stay ahead of the constant change that's happening. That's why we started this semester with market orientation. Will upstream continue to be outsourced in the future? Well, it depends on the firm. Amazon's not upstreaming their warehouse. As a matter of fact, they're going all in and doing crazy things with their warehouses, and they bought Kiva Systems for a couple $1 billion in order to completely automate things. It depends. It really depends, you know. Besides, the famous Drucker quote is, you know, your back room is someone else's front room. So even if you're outsourcing your upstreaming, that becomes someone else's downstream. So, endless loop. All right, last question here. Can we really say that purchases made as a result of downstream activities contribute to customer loyalty? They can contribute to loyalty. There's no question. The experience of going to Disney and experiencing downtown Disney, which is a downstream activity, can contribute to customer loyalty. You know, experiencing a Dave & Buster's, going to a concert or going to an event or going to a match, a game, you bet. For example, customers may order a Coke at a restaurant and have to settle for Pepsi. Well, Coke people won't settle for Pepsi. They just won't drink any cola. You know, so this is... I get this part. This part, we're not on the same page. Here, the customer will switch out. You know, and they could still have a very good experience at the restaurant, even if they're not drinking a Diet Coke. All right. Second article. Again, I'm not a fan of functional silos. And here we have another article that's trying to at least blur the silos, the IT silo and the marketing silo. It's still maintaining some kind of a silo. I'm not a fan of silos. How can you prevent conflict between the CMO, the CIO, and the CMT? Easy. An internally upstream-oriented firm will have conflict because then CMO turf war, CIO turf war, CMT turf war. Okay? But if we're letting the market drive our decisions, if we are market-oriented and we're market sensing and we're going out and finding out what our customers want before they know what they want, then guess what? The market drives our decision-making and then there's no conflict. Otherwise, if you're just guessing, well, then you're going to fight over internal resources because you're just guessing. You're not letting the market drive the strategy. Do you see any new roles developing in the future as technology continues to change? Oh, hell yeah. Where not only do we need to develop smarter algorithms, because right now the algorithms are still kind of dopey, okay? They do decent recommendations. They do some decent data gathering collection. But Watson is an anomaly, not a common occurrence. You know, Siri is not Watson. You know, Google Voice is not Watson. Alexa's not Watson. Okay? You know what I mean? One of the reasons why the supply chain major or concentration in the MBA school is so dominant at the moment is because supply chain relies on a lot of data analytics in order to make decisions. Well, you learn how to do data analytics in order to do supply chain. But that data analytics is what we need for the future of decision making. Can an MBA grad without in-depth technical background mentioned in the text succeed as a CMT? It would be challenging. It would be very challenging, especially since many institutions like Seton Hall incorporate technology into their curriculums. Well, remember, all technology is not the same thing. You know, the data analytics is coming into the curriculum very quickly. I mean, we've spent the entire year focusing on how data analytics is going to change the curriculum going forward next year. I mean, we just revised the entire MBA program starting fall 2017 to set us up so we can make changes like the changes we're going to make and add more data analytics both on the master's level and the MBA level. How common is a CMT role? It's not common at all. I can't think of one off the top of my head. This is an article. They're having a discussion. It's not very common. It's really not very common. Can there be too much overlap between marketing and IT? No. Will CMTs replace CMOs and CIOs in the near future? I think what happens is there is no CMTs, but there's CMO people out there that have IT responsibilities, and there's CIOs out there that have a lot of marketing responsibilities. Like if you're at a tech company, there might not be a CMO. There might be a senior VP of marketing, but there is a CIO because, you got an app. You're not spending that much money in traditional marketing, so you might not have a traditional CMO, but you might have a CIO. Chief Marketing Technologist, CMT, where would this be ranked in the hierarchy of business? I have no idea what you're asking here. Hierarchy? Meaning like the org chart? I'm assuming you mean org chart. Well, Chief has a C in front of it. We call that the C-suite. That outside of the C, maybe the CEO and the board of directors, there isn't a level higher than this. Who knows? Maybe the COO is higher than this. Because a lot of C-suites look like accounting, marketing, IT, finance, CFO, who report to the COO, who reports to the CEO. It depends on how the company is set up. But you're really, really high up the food chain, let's put it that way. Will technology or big data eventually take over all aspects of company and eliminate human positions as a whole? No. And I've mentioned this in the past. I am very comfortable with technology eliminating non-valuated human roles. I mean, we don't need calculators anymore. We have computers to do that stuff for us. I mean, Excel is a very, very powerful tool. None of that stuff, I don't need to hire 3 people to be able to run those numbers when one person in Excel could do what 3 people could do. Why aren't we speaking about the hiring data scientists when big data is hiring a data scientist? We had a lot of articles about data scientists this semester. We've had a lot of articles about data analytics, which is a data scientist. It's just still not that common. It's not as common as you think. I mean, we've been talking about this all semester, but Amazon is still an outlier, and Target's an outlier, and CVS is an outlier. Kroger's an outlier. If you look at the supermarket industry, there's one Kroger. If you look at the retail drugstore chains, I mean, CVS is way better than Walgreens when it comes to data. Walgreens is okay. Because these executives are straddling the line, how are they evenly distributing their work? Well, they may not be evenly distributing their work. It depends on the firm, what kind of firm it is. And just like I said in the earlier article, they might be the CIO that has some marketing responsibility. Or they might be the CMO with some IT responsibility. And then there's a senior VP of IT, but the CMO really is responsible for all the IT operations as well. It depends on the company. How long do you think it will be feasible for a company to function without a CMT? Well, there's not that many of them to begin with now. So there's a lot of companies that don't have CMTs. I kind of already answered this question. If companies do not have the means or capital to create this role, how should they expect to affect the organization's position in the marketplace? Well, if they are in a tech marketplace, if they're doing software, if they're doing apps, and they don't have a marketing officer that is very technologically savvy, very much could fill a CIO role, they're going to have a problem. I mean, if you look at the chief marketing officer for Apple, actually, he's not even the chief marketing officer. He's a senior VP of worldwide marketing. Phil Schiller is, he's been at Apple in marketing for years and years and years and years. He's the traditional CMO kind of executive. However, because he works at Apple, he has to be extremely technology savvy. So, all right, finally, we get to our last article. That this article could have been in the co-creation of value set. It could have been earlier in the semester. But this idea of the self-tuning enterprise, where we have data coming in and that insight helps the firm and the executives make decisions. You know, the only way you can have a self-tuning enterprise is if the firm culturally is market-oriented. How does a company choose the most effective and efficient route? Well, the company shouldn't choose. The company should pay attention to the marketplace. And the marketplace should give the company and the executives the impetus, that's not even a real word. Sorry, talking too fast. It should give us the guide or the ideas or the guideposts of customer activity, competitor activity, marketplace activity. Where should we go? How does the use of the algorithm differ across all platforms and products? Well, I'm not sure what you're asking here, but think of the algorithm as the database and the recommendation engines. So I don't care about the platform, I don't care about the delivery, I don't care about the software. The idea of having a database, a CRM-like database, where you have a learning relationship with your existing customers, your crowd, and then the algorithm can intelligently make very good decisions on behalf of that individual. I mean, let's go back to Google. Google has an algorithm. Their search, you know, you could say that that's probably one of tech's first monster algorithms, right? Google did it first. At least, you know, widely consumer-based scale. You know, Google does not tell people what to search for. Google sees what people are searching for. And based on what they're searching for and how they're searching, they tweak the algorithm. Google's algorithm gets somewhere in the vicinity of 600 to 650 updates a year, which means more than once a day, they change the algorithm to try to make it stronger. Has embracing change negatively impacted any companies? Well, there are a lot of companies out there that are not market-oriented, that are very inwardly focused, and inwardly focused fiefdoms, where there's a lot of politics, do not embrace change well. I think that's the best way to answer that question. How effective is the algorithm when it's used to introduce new products? Does it yield results as a benefit of making based on preferences? I know within the Amazon platform that their recommendation engine, their algorithm, is very good at recommending products that I did not know existed. Those are the ones that are not new. And just the same, recommending products that just hit the marketplace or just started being listed at Amazon. It's a very good awareness engine. How about I say it that way? How feasible is it for a company to regularly change their vision? Isn't vision what drives the firm's direction? Okay. We're using the word vision. You might be thinking mission. But if their mission is, I'm going to do whatever my customers tell us to do, then the firm's direction is always in the hands of its customer base. Now, maybe you could do that with products, customer bases that are not as fickle. You know, with algorithms leading the company's decision making, what's left for top management to do? Okay. I'll repeat this. I've said it in the past, in previous videos, and I even said it during this video. Even though we're externally oriented, even though we like the algorithm, and even though we're in a learning relationship, we do not take social media commentary, we do not take marketing research data as fact, word for word, verbatim. We don't do that. We use that information to come up with an assessment for what we're going to do next. Henry Ford did marketing research, hypothetically speaking, and people were asking for a better or faster horse. Okay? Did he make horses? No. He made better transportation. That's what top management does. They interpret the data that's coming into the company and tweak the algorithm to make the recommendation stronger to its customer base. The last thing I want you to think is that the algorithm, that management sit back and they're completely reactive to what's happening in the marketplace when we're talking about being market oriented. No, when you're market oriented, you're on the front foot. You're constantly scanning and seeing what's going on. Top management makes the final decision. The algorithm doesn't make the final decision. How can managers focus on seizing and shaping strategic opportunities and not on executing plans? Okay. Or replanning new directions while still accomplishing goals. So, executing plans usually comes from my MBA world, where we talked about creating the 5-year plan. That's what the role of management was. Management's role was primarily to come up with some kind of plan, and they really didn't spend that much time and effort coming up with the plan. Sure, they did a SWOT analysis, and Michael Porter gave us some pretty good tools for us to think about evaluation on the front end. But in my MBA program, when we did 5-year plans, years 2 through 5 was all about managing and executing the plan, not modifying the plan. So that's kind of where this thought is probably coming from. It seems that consistent pivots would stray managers away from the end result. No. Or the point is that there is no end result, yes, and a constant cycle of results. It's not a constant cycle of results. Maybe write this down in your journal. The only thing you can guarantee is that there will be change. The only thing you can guarantee is there's no way to sustain any competitive advantage in the marketplace. The only competitive advantage you really can is to consistently stay ahead of customers and competition. That's really your only competitive advantage. Because eventually customer behavior will change and your product is no longer relevant, and or your competition will out-innovate you. They will catch you. I don't care how far of a lead you have. But it very well may be the case that Google search isn't the Google search we know of as today, 5 years from now, if this stuff completely takes off and everything becomes voice-based. How can you evaluate potential hires' ability to thrive under conditions of rapid change, the way Alibaba does? Well, you decide what your key performing indicators are. If your key performing indicators are new product development, and that new product development KPI is based on how many new things you're creating for the marketplace as the marketplace evolves, there you go. You can do that. Make KPIs or make plans based on the idea that the marketplace is rapidly going to keep changing and updating. Does the self-tuning algorithm really complement all aspects of business? All right, let me rewrite this question. Is an algorithm necessary completely for every type of business line? No. The algorithm and algorithm-based efforts are best when you own the relationship with the final buyer. Like, does Nike really need an algorithm? No, Nike doesn't need an algorithm because they're selling all of their product, almost all their product, through other retailers. And they do not have control or the relationship with the end user, but Dick's does, and Macy's does. For example, can decisions about corporate culture really be solved by a computer? Well, again, and I'll go back to my executive blurtations, decisions about corporate culture could be influenced by information that's happening in the marketplace. And then corporate culture may or may not change based on what management sees what's happening in the marketplace. Final question. Are you ready? Should companies continue to change their vision, or should they stick to a certain core value for the business, or the never acts as fine-tuning, if any? Oop, I have some font issues there. Go like this. Make sure we're all in the same proper font. Should companies continue to change their vision? I don't know if it's changing their vision, but how they execute that vision or that mission certainly could change. You know. What are the negative aspects of fine-tuning, if any? Well, there's a lot of negative aspects of fine-tuning. One, it's really expensive. Two, it doesn't happen quickly. And three, and I've already said this earlier, if you are taking the data as verbatim and you're not doing any interpretation, then you could overcompensate for something that's coming through. You know, think about your cases and the social media question I asked you guys. You know, the quote-unquote feedback from the marketplace. Are you taking that at face value? Are you taking that word for word? Or are you interpreting and saying, okay, this is a theme that's out there. We have to address this theme. But one person's comments, I don't know about that. Okay. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your energy. I thank you for being vested and interested in all these crazy videos I've been making for you all semester. We just have a couple more things to do, and we're going to wrap this up and call it a semester. If you have any questions, you shoot me an email. Merci beaucoup.